For someone like you, you're a big guy, you work out a lot, but you also spend a lot of time sitting down. Like what, and sitting at a desk working, not being active. It's different for people like you or people like myself than it is for somebody who works like construction or is on their feet running around all day. For someone who spends a lot of time at the desk, like what is your regimen, for example? Like how often do you typically eat? What does that look like? And then what type of supplements are you taking?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all good question. Well, I think sitting can be like really toxic if you're sitting all day. So I actually built a stand-up desk at home. I've been working a lot at home with COVID, but I also teach. And like last week, I had to teach all week, and I'm standing behind a podium, so that's better than sitting at my desk. And my students actually bought me a stand-up desk for my office. Nice. So so that was when I got tenure. They bought me that, so it was a kind gift of them. So I do probably more than 80% of the time. If I am at the desk, I'm standing and moving around. If I'm on conference calls, like I walk around and do that. So depending, my nutrition will vary depending upon if I want to lose weight, maintain weight, or gain weight, right? And also varies depending upon my routine. I'm talking just my routine will depend upon the type of workout that I'm doing too. Last week, I guess for an example, I hosted Thomas DeLauer. He's got a massive YouTube page. Check him out. It's like 3 million followers. And I knew he was coming, and I knew he was going to. My typical routine is, through in academia, you have very long hours. So, even when I was a PhD student, it was like get in there, warm up, lift really heavy, and get out. And then I was able to build a lot of muscle just doing that, and a lot of strength and size. Dorian Yates and Mike Menser popularized an approach called the heavy duty approach. And it was just like, I followed them and would learn to warm up and do 2 or 3 major compound movements and maybe 1 or 2 accessory movements, sets, really, and be out. So I still revert back to that today. Although last week was really challenging and it was really pushing me. I do a lot of work outside. We have a farm, so I'm always, moving hay bales and shoveling poop and just, cutting logs and stuff like that. So that has kept me in shape. And
you're a real man.
Yeah. I enjoy that. And that's part of like my routine actually. And so yesterday I spent a good time fixing fences and cutting logs and everything.
That's awesome.
So yeah, last week was kind of fun because I was put through a workout that I typically don't. It was like maybe an hour and a half of training, and we did a wide variety of high volume from weighted dips to chins, and then we did shoulder exercises and all these accessory movements I typically don't do. And it was like freezing cold, but Thomas DeLauer is like an animal. He had like no sleep. He came in, slept 3 hours, but he does intermittent fasting, ketogenic diets. And he's a pretty big dude, like pretty heavily muscled. And then we did our workout, which went well. I was able to keep up with him, and even deadlifts, I'm pretty strong on that exercise. But we went from that to training outside where I had a 1,000-pound hay bale. And the idea was to roll it across the farm, across the cow bridge onto the other property. So we took turns rolling this thing across the pasture, and that it's like pushing the sled, but even harder because it's wet. It's like this thing. It's hard to push up hills. I mean, it totally totally drained every amount of ATP I had, and I really felt in that context, and we talked about it after, and we actually, developed some interview content around this idea of that would have been a good scenario or a good point in time to add carbohydrates, because I typically don't train that way. If I was ketogenic, I could probably train my body to do an hour and a half workout. But because my workouts are usually 30 minutes, if I extend it to an hour and a half, not having carbohydrates would be detrimental, I think. But I feel like I could get a sufficient amount of stimulus within a 30-minute workout to grow muscle and to grow strength. And just going beyond that is just like a waste of time because I'm not like a professional athlete or anything like that. Although if I was going to be, a bodybuilder, a competitive power lifter, or football player, I would be doing 2 or 3 hour workouts, and I would probably introduce some carbohydrates in and around my workout, but not much. A little bit goes a long way. But and I would probably add them intra-workout about halfway through. So, but for me, I probably spend about an
like
hour.
Carbohydrate supplements?
Yeah, like a little bit of, simple sugars in the form of glucose polymers, or, I actually just have like dark chocolate. I'll have some dark chocolate if I want a little bit of carbs. And sometimes I get into routines where like I'm just like moving logs all day, and just like, it's like 8 hours of deadlifting,
Yeah.
if I'm doing some fence work or something like that, and just doing a lot of heavy farm work, and then I will titrate some carbs in, and I feel it. I mean, but I like to keep my body hungry for carbs, and in the process of doing that, you're adapting your physiology to be able to perform and preserve that performance in a low carb state. And I think there's a lot of advantages to that. So your glucose is low, your insulin is low, and that allows you to tap into your fat reserves more efficiently. So we have an endless amount of fat. Even a lean person has, 20 to 30,000 calories of fat on their body, even a lean person. So we can always tap into that. Whereas, if we cut carbs completely out within like 24, 36 hours, we're going to deplete our liver glycogen. But if we are fat adapted and we have good metabolic flexibility, that means that, and a good way to assess this is if you stop eating and you fast, and if the fast is extremely painful and you get a headache and you just can't perform, then you're not fat adapted. So one way to get your body more fat adapted is simply, the first way to do it is to simply eat within a 12-hour window and fast in 12 hours. So start there, and then you can push it to like a 16-hour fast and 8 hours of eating. Some people go to like 20 hours of fasting, 4 hours of eating. If I did that, I would lose way too much weight and size and strength. So what I do personally is just I do intermittent fasting, a 16-8 protocol just twice a week, if that. And that's actually enough.
So 16 hours of not eating.
16 hours fasting, 16 hours of just, skipping breakfast. Like last week, I may like lecture twice. It's like I would finish my lectures for the day around 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and then that would be my first meal. So, and sometimes, during the day, I might have some ketone supplements, or I might have like black coffee or something like that.
Yeah.
And sometimes I put MCT in it, sometimes I don't. But basically, the most important thing is to keep insulin and glucose low, and that pushes your body to be more fat adapted. And when we get fat adapted and we go in a situation, if we don't have any carbs, or if we go into a fasting situation, the body is completely immune to the energy crisis. So your body knows what to do, quickly liberates fat for fuel. And I think a lot of things are going on there. It's like you're increasing something called glucagon, you're stimulating your sympathetic nervous system, your catecholamines, and that's basically hits a hormone called hormone sensitive lipase. And then, so basically it just like, it opens the floodgates for fat to go out of your cell and to be used as energy. And some of that fat goes to the liver, and through ketogenesis, generates ketones, and then ketones can largely replace glucose as an energy source, which you were experiencing when you were fasting for 5 to 7 days.
Yeah.
You did? Yeah. So,
I did. I quit on the 6th day. I wanted to go 7, but I couldn't.
Yeah. Well, at that point in time, like the majority of your brain energy was coming from ketones. Like if you fasted that long. So it takes a while to get to that.